think the thing that gets me most excited when I'm working on problems is not just sort of solving the problem at hand, but helping both people and organizations reach more of their potential, particularly in terms of the way they use the tools and the resources available to them. I think the problems that I find most interesting are the problems where there's an opportunity for unexpected leverage for coming at the problem from a different perspective or another vantage point or with different knowledge helps you frame and then resolve the problem in sort of an unexpected and creative way. Alan Kay, who's a friend of mine and the guy who invented much of the technology we now take for granted in terms of computer interfaces, likes to say that point of view is worth 80 IQ points. If you can find the right perspective on the problem, it amplifies intelligence. Problems which are primarily about marshaling resources and pointing them and getting in the right direction and getting them moving are less interesting to me. Important, but less interesting. When I'm working on a problem, both on my own and with teams, I think my primary strategy is an immersion strategy to sort of dive into a lot of raw material, a lot of details, without worrying too much at the outset whether they're immediately relevant or not. The way I've liked to manage that part of the problem solving is I frequently look for a story arc or a storyline, some kind of a way to narrate what is happening or what might happen, build a story, and then look for evidence or look for ways to flesh out the story. And I like that because the storytelling, I think, is a way that the human mind organizes a lot of the world around it. So if you kind of create the story and then match the story to the play back and forth between the story and the problem, that's where you get unexpected leverage. It helps to know a lot of stories, and it helps to have people who know how to tell different stories to make for interesting vantage points on problems. I want to be the worst performer in the band. I want to be in a band of people who are all so good that they're always kind of going, Jim, come on, you can be better, you can catch up. For me, working in a team environment for me is both an opportunity to learn from all the other folks working on the team, their perspectives, to see things in a light that I don't, and also to encourage them to kind of push their own edges of performance. I've worked on a lot of teams. I think my whole career has been team-based at some level. Two that come to mind. One is relatively recently, where I was part of a search committee at our church, as a matter of fact, looking for a new rector, new leadership, and it was a group of about 16 parishioners worked together for over a year. And I think what worked so well about that was we all certainly agreed to, volunteered for the mission. We agreed it was an important mission. We all cared about it. And we started off with a pretty good understanding of what we each brought to the table. But as it played out, we continued to sort of enrich that understanding. And there was a lot of controversy. There were a lot of tough issues to work through and argue through and fight about. But because we were focused on the same goal, and we cared about the result, and we cared about one another, it was all of those tensions and the things that rubbed back and forth were understood as pushing us toward the better end result, and that was something I found myself reflecting on, talking about a lot as it was playing, sharing that as examples. I think that was a very powerful example. And then the other, I think, goes way back to early in my my career, pre-consulting, when I was working on stage crew. and was production stage manager for producing an original show. Princeton Triangle Club, for anybody who happens to big musical comedy with big guys dancing in little dresses. You'd have to see it to understand why that's funny. But again, it was an interesting combination of three things. The end goal was clear. There was a date when the opening night was. The curtain was going to go up on something, but what that something was undefined. It was going to be a show. It had these people in it. We had some idea of what it was going to be, and nobody came in as experts about anything. They all came in with a reason. There were a few people knew. We each knew a bit more than somebody else about something. And collectively, at the end, we all knew a lot more about how to make that particular process work, and a lot more about each other. That those are a lot of long hours. But you didn't notice the time, because what you were working on mattered, and the people you were working with were people you'd hang around with, even if you weren't working on something. It was better, to be working with someone you just soon have a beer with, and then go have a beer with them as well. What's good to talk to me about? I think whatever. I love to hear about what people are reading. What talk about what I'm reading, what new ideas I've come across, what's happened. What was on the Daily Show last night, or what was in the news this weekend in the New York Times, or what's going on. I'm a big fan of movies, preferably dumb, stupid, entertaining movies. I don't like cinema. I like movies. I'll talk about most any of those. My favorite weekend activity is a double feature of just about anything. So those are several things around which. And if you are a closet science fiction reader, I really want to know about that, because it's one of those secret vices that if I've shared that with you, then we're friends. But I have a suspicion that a number of my colleagues probably think I talk too much about my family. But family's important. I've got two boys. One's recently out of college, hoping to be a scientist of some sort, a geologist, or help discover new energy sources. He's struggling right now with do I live in Chicago or do I go find the work I want to do? I have a younger boy who's in the Marine Corps, recently married, so I now have a daughter-in-law, and my wife and I have done we do a lot of volunteer work together. She is very active in a lot of environmental issues, a lot of recycling kinds of things, and very active in our church and whatnot. And she sings in our choir, so we find lots of ways to do things together, and we have the usual ups and downs of any family. And I suspect that most of my work colleagues would just as soon I talk less about them rather than. I think the most interesting opportunity for me within Collaborating Minds is the collection of people I hope it will attract, based on kind of the preliminary efforts. It seems to appeal to a category of interesting people that I want to meet and work with. One of the things I do on the side is a lot of times I introduce people to one another. It's one of my things I enjoy doing, and my tagline for that has always been, my goal, my plan for world domination is to introduce all the interesting people I know to all the other interesting people I know. And so Collaborating Minds is, if you will, is an extension of that opportunity to find even more interesting people to introduce to even more interesting people, because when you do that, good things happen. I'm always interested in whole people and whole lives, and so people who are sharing the other things they're working on, the other problems, the concerns they've got, are more likely to get me to open up. And that can be about a lot of things. I have discovered over the years that I have some very rewarding, productive, energizing relationships with people whose politics is a complete opposite of mine, whose religious beliefs are totally opposite of mine. And you would think we would be, bitter enemies, but we've found that there's something deeper about being willing to, stand by our own beliefs, but realize the world isn't made up of just people of our beliefs. So, those are the kinds of attitudes and the kinds of people that help me open up, and that I find more creative working opportunities with. What are the things they worry about the world? What are the problems that exist that occupy their attention, the opportunities? Are they interested in how to make the world a better place and benefit from it on the side? But so I want to know what those things are that are that excite them. What do they care about? Why do they care about it? What is it that makes it important to them? And sell me on it. I mean, we may not agree, but the passion behind what gets them excited about problems is what makes them interesting people to know. Well, I think the thing that attracts me to that's always attracted me about the notion of collaborating minds is that I think there's no shortage of problems in the world to be solved. But there's also I have a belief that the population of this planet is not tapping the talent that exists. And so for me, my biggest hope for collaborating minds is it becomes a tool, an example of a way to get more of that talent attacking problems that matter. And if we make a little dent in the universe because of that to me would be very rewarding, whatever that dent is. There's a certain fear of failure that we won't pull it off, and that we won't pull it off in a way that doesn't lead to anything interesting. I don't mind failing if we fail in an interesting way. But there's always that fear that we're chasing the wrong target in the wrong field. I don't believe that's the case, but the world may prove me different. I guess my second fear is success that comes at the expense of distorting the real opportunity for making a dent in the universe. That it becomes that for whatever reason, some subset of what collaborating minds could be dominates what it might be. And I can't really articulate that better than that yet, but that would be my other deep fear. The journey up to date on collaborating minds has been interesting and educational. Even in the early stages, and the thing that I'm most looking forward to is continuing to meet the fascinating, high energy, broader thinking people that I have encountered so far, and I'm really looking forward to meeting the rest of them, whoever they may be and wherever they might be on this planet.